What's up, guys? Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to tie a saltwater fly, a gotcha. So the gotcha is one of the most popular bonefish flies. Just anywhere you go to catch bonefish. Probably between this and the Crazy Charlie, with a combination of those, you should be able to catch a bonefish just about anywhere. So I'm headed to Belize here in just a few weeks. I'm slowly starting to fill my fly box with a bunch of bonefish flies. And so I've been tying a bunch of these. So we're gonna tie one for you today. This is kind of travel season. We have slowly started to fill the shop with not only some saltwater flies, but some kind of saltwater specific rods, some lines, and a bunch of tying materials. So like I said, I'm slowly filling my box with some saltwater flies. I'm tying most of them myself. And as I'm bringing in some of these materials to tie these flies, I'm ordering extra to make sure that they're stocked in the shop for you guys. So if you're headed south somewhere, you're headed to Florida or Belize or Bahamas or wherever, tie some of these. Check out what else we've got in the shop. We've got stuff for redfish, tarpon, but yeah. Kind of excited to get into the saltwater stuff a little more, as far as the shop goes. So kind of some of the materials that I'm using here. First off, the hook I've got is a TMC 811S. This is a size 6. Most of my bonefish flies I'm tying in a 6 or an 8 for Belize. You could tie them in like a 4 or 2, especially if you're headed over to like the Bahamas. I know those guys are typically using slightly bigger bonefish flies. From there, some medium bead chain eyes. I've got some of this, it's called Minnow body tubing from Hairline. It's basically Mylar tubing. It's got the core. You can cut it, you strip that core out, and you're just using that coating around that core. So this is for the tail. I've got some flat diamond braid and pearl. And I've got some craft fur here in sand. You can use tan as I've tied a bunch in tan. They're super close. Tie some in white or anything like that. As far as thread goes, right here I've got some UTC 140 in fluorescent fire orange. With this fly, because of that bottom being pretty transparent with that flash and the nose being so, such a big part of that fly, one of the best ways to kind of vary this fly from color to color is simply change your thread. So the one here I tied with that orange thread. And tie some with some pink thread, an olive thread, probably some white thread, just to change that up, and everything else will be the same. I might change that wing color with a couple of them, but for the most part, just changing that thread color is going to be great. And then changing that bead chain eyes. Like I said, these are medium. You could jump up to some large with a little bit more weight, or even go into like some small lead eyes to put just a even more weight on there. So I like to use some head cement on these as well as Solarez. The combination of the two is great. But I think that's really about it for materials. It's a pretty simple, easy fly. But let's get into it. All right, we are going to start tying this. In the vise, I've got a size 6 TMC 811S. Pretty standard bonefish hook. Most bonefish flies seem to kind of use this hook. So I'm gonna start my thread. As I said, this is UTC 140 in the fluorescent fire orange. And I want to stop my thread, maybe not quite halfway between the eye and the point of the hook, a little farther forward, but kind of in that ballpark. I've got some medium bead and chain here. I'm gonna cut off a couple eyes, and we'll set these. I go a little farther forward than that. Yeah. So as I tie these in, I'm just simply doing X wraps over the top. So I'll do like 4 or 5 times on each, and then I'll reverse and go the other way. And I'm just going to do that until that center link is completely covered. And then keeping tension on the thread, I'm going to wind back. Just for some added durability, I'm going to take a little bit of head cement and just put a little dab on those eyes and kind of let that soak into the thread there. Just help keep everything extra secure. So, to start this, I'm going to wrap this thread kind of into the bend of that hook, not super far, but just a little bit. And I'm going to take, this is body tubing. Like mylar tinsel is pretty similar, or mylar tubing, I mean. This is the stuff with the core in it. So when you cut it, you got to pull that core out. Cut off a small piece, pull that core out, and tie this guy in right behind the eyes. And just wrap that back down and just barely on the bend of that hook. Yep. Wrap back forward. We will kind of unravel this later in the fly. I think it's a little easier as you're tying this, so just go ahead and leave that together best you can, because we'll come back later, we'll undo it and trim it to the right length if it's a little long later on in the fly. So this next step, I've got some pearl flat diamond braid here. The original fly, go ahead and uses the that body tubing on the rest of the fly, like wrapping it up the hook. I like to use the flat diamond braid, it's a little easier to work with. Probably a little more durable. And it comes out looking exactly the same. So I'm gonna wrap that in. I do like to have touching wraps with my thread on this. And if you miss some spots like I have, we'll clean it up. But I like to have a nice solid base of whatever color thread I'm using, because this flat diamond braid is slightly transparent. And so that's going to show through. So you notice I stuck my thread in front of my eyes here. That's important when we get up there. I'm just going to go ahead and start wrapping this, slightly overlap my wraps all the way up. As I get closer to the eyes, I'm going to make sure those wraps maybe overlap just a hair more than what they did. And when I get to the eyes, I'm going to come over the top of the eyes and come back around under that eye and then back over the top again. That way I'm finishing on top of the hook with the top in its current orientation. We're about to flip it. And just secure those down and cut that flush. Clean that up just a hair. Now we can take that piece that we just cut off from that flat diamond braid, and we want it to be in total like about a hook shank and a half, maybe 2 hook shanks long. So that's probably good there. And we're gonna, you notice I changed the orientation of that hook, and I'm just gonna tie this braid right in front of those eyes, kind of between the eyes and the eye of the hook, making sure that they stay right on top. As you're tying, I almost did it, but as you're tying, watch your thread on those bead chain, because rubbing your thread on the bead chain will cut your thread. And I just about did it. It got close. So when I get to this point, we're going to kind of unravel this flat diamond braid. What I like to do is just take a needle, something kind of small and pokey, and run through that till it is completely unraveled. You could definitely substitute some different flashes right here, make this process a little faster. I saw Charlie Craven do it this way with this flat diamond braid, and I just really like how it looks. I think that flat diamond braid with that perfectly matching the body of the fly, I think it just looks good. It's kind of a subtle flash. And so that's how I've been tying them. And definitely take a dubbing brush. Might do it faster. But it's what I have with me. Almost got it. So we got all those fibers separated. We'll just let them chill right there. Kind of brush them back so they're out of our way. And clean up this head just a little before we tie in this craft fur. So the next step here, I've just got some sand colored craft fur. You can use tan or like a light olive, white, you know. This is just the color that I like to tie these in right now. And when we do this, we're gonna take off a pretty decent clump of this. Pretty good clump. And I'll show you why in just a second. So be sure to take out all of that under fur out of the craft fur. And then what we want to do is we want to stack this so that those tips align a little better. That way it gives us just a better shrimp profile in general. You'll kind of see what I mean in a minute. If I tie that in right now, the very tips of these, they're real like wispy and they're going to stick out too far. It's not going to give me the body that I want on this fly. So if I take this craft fur and I just grab those longer tips and I pull out away just like that, and then I can come back in, align those tips together, and kind of re-stack it on top of itself. And now I got a little bit more body, but I'm going to do this a few times. I'm going to pull it, and then just kind of realign those tips. Maybe 1 or 2 more times. Pull it. You just want to get the fibers that come out real easy. If you got a few stragglers, you can pull them out. But that's a much better profile for this fly. And then we can make it even better after we get these tied in. So same as that flash that we tied in, we want about a hook length and a half long or so for like the majority of the hair. I'm not too worried about these couple sticking out a little farther than normal because we'll take care of that in a minute. But about a hook length and a half for the majority of that hair. And then we're going to tie that in right in front of those eyes. And just to make this, I'm going to rotate my thread. That way it helps kind of bite down on that craft fur for me. Get a couple wraps to hold it tight, and then we're going to trim that hair nice and flush. And kind of come back through and clean up any stragglers before we finish off this head. All right, now we're going to build the head of this fly. It's just a thread head, so lots of wraps kind of build up that thread right on this eye, and just make sure you get that well covered. Like that, and at this point we can go ahead and whip finish. Don't have to do crazy whip finishes because we're gonna secure this really good. So I've got my head cement again. I'm gonna cover this thread on that head with this head cement. That way that head cement soaks into that thread. UV resin doesn't do quite as good of a job of just like soaking into the thread. So I'm going to let this head cement kind of soak in. That way everything's held nice and secure. We're gonna fix the rest of this fly real quick and then we'll come back to that head in a moment. So I've got the fly in my hands. And first thing we want to do is we want to get this mylar unraveled. And it unravels really easy. You just kind of run it through your fingers. You can take a needle or a bodkin or something and help you with it, but I just run it through my fingers and it comes undone. You get a nice flared tail. That tail might be a little long, so I'm going to come in and just trim it up just a hair. Be careful to not cut any of the other flash that we have tied in. And then as far as that craft fur goes, you can kind of take your fingers and pinch and kind of pull off some of those longer strands, and it'll keep that nice taper that we got going. So to get rid of those longer strands and give us that nice profile that I was talking about. And then kind of the same thing with the flash that we have tied in. We don't want that flash to be longer than the hair. So I can kind of hold that up. Make a few cuts to that if I need to. Okay, so I'm gonna put the fly back in the vise. Got the profile I want. The flash is the length I want. You could definitely just go fish it like it is. But to make this fly the most durable that we can, I'm going to go ahead and take some Solres. Got Solres bone dry here, and I'm going to just put over that thread head. Just cover that whole head with Solres. That head cement's definitely had a chance to kind of sit in and dry at this point, so it's just the resin that's on there. And then we'll cure it. And there we go. There is a gotcha that's ready for action in Belize, Bahamas, or anywhere else that you might find some bonefish or some permit. Thanks for watching.